Hi everyone, my name is King IV, and this is an introductory lesson to natural language processing with Python and NLTK. So NLTK stands for Natural Language Toolkit. It's a module within Python, an open source tool. And the source that I'm using for these lessons is this website called NLTK.org. And it contains a whole bunch of different corpora and lexicons and resources that you can use. It even has one of the books, the latest version of the book, which I've read through, which is super helpful. And hopefully I'll be able to translate to you. But if you're interested in learning more, I definitely recommend you check out that website. So what we're going to do, what we're using, just put in context, is we're using Python 3.4, but if you use Python 3.5, that will work as well. If you're using Python 2.7, it might look a little bit different, but you should be able to adjust your code if you're familiar with Python to match what I'm showing. So this first lesson, we're going to be starting out with NLTK and just learning the basics of NLTK and the different features and functions that are available. So first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to import NLTK. Again, pretty straightforward. You should also go in and install it as well. In this case, we're using an IDE called PyCharm, which is my preferred IDE. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to do nltk.download, open bracket, close bracket. And what that will do is it will pop up a screen, takes a little while, and will show you the different corporas, models, and packages that you can go ahead and download. In this case, mine are slightly out of date, but it's good enough for the lessons that we're showing. It does take a little while to install this, so I recommend that you give yourself sufficient time to install all these corporas. And a corpora is just basically a set of texts that we're going to use to help analyze. And there's a lot of really great corporas that are available, such as the Brown corpus. So the Brown corpus will contain a series of texts, and a lot of those texts have been tagged for parts of speech. So where part of speech is, like, for example, noun, a verb, an adjective, etc., etc. So someone's already gone through and tagged certain texts. So if you're trying to develop a model that's going to help you better accurately tag text, you can practice your model on this data set, so you can see how accurate it is. So super useful. There's a lot of really great ones, like the Brown one I use a lot. Gutenberg is another great one. The movie reviews, especially when it comes to supervised classification, supervised learning, that's a really great one. Product reviews, Shakespeare, a lot of really great corporas and corpuses are available. State of the Union, which we'll cover a little bit later. So we won't bother with that since I've already imported it. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go here and we're going to import some text that's within this submodule nltk.book. And we're just going to do the star or wildcard, which means just import everything. So you can see here we have various texts here. We have Moby Dick, which is text 1. Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, which is text 2. The Book of Genesis, the inaugural address corpus, chat corpus, which I think are like forums, where some of you may not know what a chat forum is, but there used to be forums. I guess they're similar to Reddit if you use that. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Wall Street Journal, Personals corpus, and The Man Who Was Thursday by G.K. Chesterton, 1908. So you'll see there's various texts that are available there. So next thing we're going to do here is we're going to use some interesting functions to help us better understand the uses of words within various texts. So first thing we're going to talk about is concordance. So concordance will permit us to see words in context. So what that means is that it's going to identify all the various occurrences of words within a particular text, but also provide us some words before and after to allow us to put some context around the uses of concordance. So you can see here text 1, which is Moby Dick, dot concordance, and then here we're just putting the word that we want to find the occurrence of and then provide the context. What dot similar does is allows you to determine what other words appear in a similar range of contexts, which will then provide you some additional detail on how these words are used within a particular body of text. And the last one is this common context. What this will do is it'll allow us to examine the contexts that are shared between two or more words. In this case, we're going to be using the text Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen to identify those. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So I'm just going to uncomment that here and play it. So it's going to import the text again. And then we should be able to see the various functions in play. So it does take a little bit of processing power, but let's start here with the concordance. So what it does here, it displays all 11 matches, and it'll show you here, in this case it cut it off, the former, one of the most monstrous size, this came towards us, etc., etc. As you can see here, a lot of it obviously has to do with the monstrous whale. And if we go down to similar, it'll show you some words that appear in the same appear in the same areas as monstrous within the context. So things like trustworthy, wise, passing, fearless, lazy, etc., etc. And then some additional context that's shared between these two words is pretty, be glad, glad, lucky. So really interesting, provides you some additional context when you want to better understand how certain texts are used. So those are some interesting functions that are available. Some additional things that are interesting as well is you can use these dispersion plots, and what this plot will do is it'll show you determine when texts are used within a text. So in this case it should be words, but they're also text as well. So here you have to make sure you import matplotlib first in order to actually have this work successfully. And this is actually a really interesting plot, and we're going to be using text 4, which is the inaugural speeches. So the State of the Union, or not State of the Union, the inaugural speeches when they accept their speech. And you'll see here, this will show you the dispersion of the words. So you can see here, citizens are used pretty heavily throughout, but very heavy at the beginning, and then America is used very heavily at the end. So you can see here the word offset and when they're used within the certain contexts. So pretty interesting. Freedom used a lot near the end. Duty is used a lot more in the beginning and in the middle, and democracy is used more towards the end. So you can see here, really interesting. You can save this plot. It's quite useful to help you better understand how words are used within the context of your text. Again, this is still very much a developing science, because you can understand the complexities of languages, and we as humans have the ability to process, and we don't have to necessarily follow some rules. We are able to apply our own logic, while computers a lot of times outside of machine learning are basically follow a set of rules. So it becomes very complicated to understand the nuances of text. So here, what we're going to do next is we're going to calculate the diversity of a word's use. So what this set text will do is it'll determine all the set of unique words that are used within this text, and the length will just tell us the length of that particular list. And then length text 3 will just show us all the words that are used within this text. So this will calculate what percentage of unique words are used within this text. So we'll let that run. And different texts will have different levels of diversity within their text, and you can look it up. So you can see here, there's about 6.2% unique words are used within text 3, which is the book of Genesis. So interesting, provides you some more detail, provides you how unique these words are. And that's also useful when you're trying to identify, for example, the potential author of a text when you don't know it is, but you have like a list of candidates. You can look through and use this as one of the potential features to understand who is this text more likely to be. The next couple ones are going to be determining the frequency of text frequency of words within a particular text. So we're going to use this this function here, freak disk, and the text one again is the Moby Dick, and we're going to print the 50 most common words, and it also provide us the number of instances of those words in text. And you'll see here there's going to be some modifications that you want to do when you apply this type of code. So you can see here a lot of commas, the is used a lot, periods. So you might want to get rid of what we call stop words before, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. You may want to get rid of stop words to improve the accuracy of the type of words that you use. You can see here a lot of stop words are used, and stop words are words that don't really provide any additional value or information from a natural language processing point of view, like words like the and the periods, the commas. Those aren't stop words, but those don't necessarily provide any additional context to versus things like whales, things like actually doesn't look like a lot of these are stop words, and there's various stop word lists, but there's one inherent within Python and NLTK that we're going to leverage, but certainly you're free to use any list that you want. The last part that we're going to talk about is co-location. So what this does, it determines all the words that are used together. So things like, for example, White House. In the inaugural speeches, that's going to be used a lot together. But the example that they give here is like red wine. These are words that are used together and should be kept together. And that's important, especially when you're like tagging words. So, for example, house and white are not necessarily proper nouns in of themselves, but together they do form a proper noun and should be analyzed as a group of words as opposed to individual words. So doing things like co-location definitely helps you better understand your text and better help you understand and analyze your text from a natural language processing point of view. So you'll see here it's going to be pretty interesting. So we're using text 4, which is the inaugural speeches. So you'll see things like God bless, every citizen, Indian tribes, public debt, one another, foreign nations, political parties, Almighty God, fellow citizens. And you'll see here there's a lot of different words that are used to help you better understand the context of the text that you're looking at. So this is super helpful, just some beginner stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. I look forward to speaking to you in the next Python and natural language processing lesson. Thank you.